The auction hall fell silent when they brought her in. Counselor Vetheran had seen prisoners before. Broken soldiers, disgraced nobles, conquered kings, but never a Vel'kari High Matriarch in chains. The crystalline restraints around her wrists pulsed with suppression fields, dimming the natural luminescence of her silver-blue skin to something almost gray. Lot 47, the Syndicate auctioneer announced, his voice carrying no more emotion than if he were selling cargo containers. Former High Matriarch Syra'veth of the Ascending Throne. Deposed. Exiled. Stripped of house protection. Starting bid, 40,000 credits. Marcus Cole stood at the back of the crowd, his Earth Merchant Guild credentials giving him access to an auction he had no business attending. He'd come looking for salvage rights to a derelict freighter. Instead, he found himself unable to look away from the woman on the platform. She stood straight despite the chains. Her 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones the color of dying stars, 2 smaller secondary ones above them, stared ahead. Nothing. The flowing robes that should have marked her station had been replaced with plain gray prisoner's garb, but she wore it like it was still silk and starlight. 40,000, someone called. 45.50. Marcus had read about the Vel'kari coup 6 months ago. A political assassination, they said. The old matriarch's entire bloodline sentenced to death or exile. Most had chosen death. This one apparently had not. 70,000, a Drethnar merchant called out, his tusked face splitting into an ugly grin. I have clients who would pay well for a fallen queen. Marcus felt his stomach turn. He knew exactly what kind of clients the Drethnar served. 75, 80. The matriarch's expression never changed, but Marcus noticed her secondary eyes flick briefly toward the Drethnar. Just for a moment, something like fear crossed her face before the mask returned. 100,000, the Drethnar said, confident now. Few could match that sum for a single purchase. The auctioneer raised his gavel. 100,000 credits, going once, going twice, 200,000 a D. The words left Marcus's mouth before his brain caught up. The entire hall turned to stare at him, a human, in worn merchant's clothes, outbidding a Drethnar slaver by double. The Drethnar snarled. You don't have that kind of money, human. Check my credentials. Marcus held up his trading tablet, his heart hammering. His entire ship, his cargo, his savings, everything he'd built in 15 years of hauling freight across the spiral arm. Guild verified. Immediate transfer available. The auctioneer's scanner confirmed it. The bid stands. 200,000 credits. Any further offers? Silence. Sold to the human merchant. The crowd dispersed with muttering and suspicious glances. Marcus walked to the platform where 2 guards waited with the prisoner. Up close, he was taller than him by half a head, her features sharp and angular in a way that was striking rather than harsh. Remove the restraints, he said. The guards looked at each other. Sir, I know what she is. Remove them. They complied. The crystalline cuffs fell away, and the matriarch's skin slowly began to regain its luminescence. She rubbed her wrists once, then straightened to her full height and looked down at him. How dare you look at me, human? Her voice cut through the air like broken glass, cold, furious, imperious despite everything. Marcus didn't flinch, didn't look away. Instead, he smiled. Because you're breathtaking. For a long moment she simply stared at him, all 4 eyes fixed on his face with an expression he couldn't read. Then something shifted, confusion perhaps, or the beginning of it. You spent everything, she said. It wasn't a question. I heard you tell the Drethnar. Your ship, your cargo, everything. I did. Why? Marcus thought about lying, about claiming some noble purpose or hidden agenda. Instead, he told her the truth. Because I watched my mother sell herself to pay my father's debts when I was 12 years old. She walked onto a transport and I never saw her again. He paused, the old wound still aching after all these years. I couldn't save her, but I could save you. The matriarch's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a Vel'kari tell, he would later learn, for profound emotional disturbance. You are either the greatest fool in the galaxy, she said slowly, or something else entirely. Probably the fool, Marcus admitted. But you're free now. You can go wherever you want. I'll arrange transport to any system you choose. Free. She said the word like she was tasting something foreign. My house is destroyed. My people scattered. My name is a death sentence in half the galaxy. Her primary eyes met his. Where exactly would I go? Marcus hadn't thought that far ahead. He'd acted on instinct, on a bone-deep refusal to watch history repeat itself. I have a ship, he said. It's not much, cargo hauler, needs repairs every other cycle. But there's a spare cabin. You could figure things out. Take whatever time you need. You would take me onto your vessel. A stranger. A deposed ruler with enemies in every sector. Yes. You understand that simply being seen with me could mark you for death. I've been marked for death before. It didn't take. Something almost like amusement flickered across her face. Almost. You are very strange, human. Marcus, he said. My name is Marcus Cole. She studied him for a long moment, those 4 alien eyes seeing something he couldn't guess at. I am Syra'veth, she said finally, and I accept your offer, for now. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't trust. But it was a beginning. 3 weeks on the Wandering Star and taught Syra'veth that everything she knew about humans was wrong. She had been raised on stories of them, primitive, emotional creatures from a young world, barely spacefaring, significant only in their numbers, and their inexplicable ability to survive where logic said they shouldn't. They were merchants and mercenaries, workers and wanderers. They were not supposed to be this. Marcus Cole woke at the same hour every cycle. He prepared meals from the ship's limited supplies with a care that seemed excessive for simple nutrition. He spoke to her with respect but without deference, asked questions about her culture with genuine curiosity, and never once treated her as either a prize or a burden. It was deeply unsettling. You're staring again, he said without looking up from the navigation console. Syra'veth stiffened. She had been watching him from the doorway of the bridge, trying to understand the strange creature who had upended her existence. I am observing, she corrected. There is a difference, if you say so. He finished his calculations and turned to face her. We'll reach Nexus station in about 6 hours. It's a free port, no Vel'kari jurisdiction, no Syndicate presence. You'll be able to move around without drawing attention. And then whatever you decide. I have contacts there, people who owe me favors. We can get you new identification, passage to wherever you want to go. He paused. Or you can stay, keep figuring things out. Stay. The word caught in her mind like a thorn. Why do you keep offering me choices, he demanded. You own my debt. By salvage law, by purchase contract, you have rights over my person until the obligation is settled. Marcus's expression changed, hardened in a way she hadn't seen before. I don't own people, he said quietly. I don't care what the law says. I bought your freedom, not your servitude. There's no debt. That is not how the galaxy works. Then the galaxy is wrong. Syra'veth felt something crack inside her careful composure. 3 weeks of his impossible kindness, his stubborn decency, his refusal to take what the universe had clearly given him the right to take, it was too much. Stop it, she heard herself say, her voice breaking in a way that horrified her. Stop being, whatever this is. What do you want from me? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Nothing, he said. I want nothing from you, Syra'veth. I want things for you. Safety, peace, a chance to rebuild whatever kind of life you want. But from you? He shook his head. I learned a long time ago that wanting things from people only leads to disappointment. That is... She searched for words in 3 languages and found none adequate. That is not how power functions. I don't want power over you. I don't want power over anyone. He turned back to his console. I just want to fly my ship, do honest work, and maybe, once in a while, do something that matters. Buying you out of that auction mattered. What happens next is up to you. Syra'veth stood frozen in the doorway. In her world, her former world, everything was transaction. Alliance and betrayal, favor and obligation, power given and power taken. The ascending throne had been built on 10,000 years of such calculations. And here was this human, this impossible human, who seemed to operate outside all of it. You confuse me, she admitted finally. I get that a lot. Among my people, such confusion would be considered dangerous, a sign that one cannot predict another's actions. Is that bad? She considered the question seriously. I am not certain anymore. Marcus smiled. That warm, uncomplicated expression that still startled her every time she saw it. That sounds like progress. Nexus Station was exactly as chaotic as Marcus had promised. A massive construct built into an asteroid. It served as neutral ground for a dozen species, and twice as many factions. Here, a deposed Vel'kari Matriarch was just another refugee among thousands. They walked through crowded corridors, and Syra'veth found herself staying close to Marcus. Not out of fear. She had faced worse than merchant crowds. But because his presence had become unexpectedly comfortable. Marcus Cole. A booming voice cut through the noise, and a massive figure pushed through the crowd toward them. Syra'veth's hand went instinctively to where her honor blade should have been before she remembered it had been taken months ago. Torvin? Marcus's face lit up. You old pirate, I thought you'd be dead by now. Huh. Too mean to die. The creature, a Crethar, easily 8 feet tall with hide like cracked stone, embraced Marcus in a hug that looked like it might crush him. Then the alien's small eyes fixed on Syra'veth. And who is this magnificent creature? A friend, Marcus said simply. She's traveling with me. A friend. Torvin's gaze sharpened with unexpected intelligence. A Vel'kari friend. A highborn Vel'kari friend, if I'm not mistaken. He looked back at Marcus. You always did have a talent for finding trouble. I prefer to think trouble finds me. Semantics. Torvin gestured for them to follow. Come. We should speak somewhere with fewer ears. He led them through a maze of corridors to a private room behind what appeared to be a machine repair shop. Once inside, his jovial manner dropped away. Word is spreading, he said directly to Marcus. A human bought a Vel'kari Matriarch from a Syndicate auction. People are asking questions. Let them ask. Some of those people have ships. Guns. Bad intentions. Torvin's eyes went to Syra'veth. The new regime on Vel'kar is offering a substantial reward for information about surviving members of the old bloodline. Something about ensuring stability. They want to finish what they started, Syra'veth said flatly. I knew this. You knew. But does your human protector understand what he stepped into? Marcus leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I understand that people in power don't like loose ends. I also understand that I don't particularly care what they like. Torvin laughed, a grinding sound like rocks tumbling. Say Marcus. Same stupid, stubborn, magnificent Marcus. He sobered. There's a bounty hunter on the station. Vel'kari. Asking questions about human merchants who might have made unusual purchases recently. Syra'veth felt cold spread through her. Then I should leave. Tonight. Take passage on another ship, draw the pursuit away from Noho. Marcus's voice was quiet, but absolute. You cannot fight what is coming for me, Syra'veth said. You are one human with a cargo ship. They will send warriors, assassins, entire strike teams if necessary. Then we'll deal with that when it comes. You will die. Maybe. He looked at her. And there was something in his eyes she couldn't name. But I'm not going to let you face this alone. Not now, not ever, not as long as you're willing to let me stand beside you. Syra'veth's secondary eyes burned. Among her people, such a declaration would be the beginning of a bonding vow, a commitment that transcended mere alliance. You do not know what you are saying, she whispered. I know exactly what I'm saying. He didn't look away. I'm saying you matter. I'm saying your life has value. I'm saying that I would rather face whatever comes than let you disappear alone into the dark. For the first time in months, Syra'veth felt something other than the cold certainty of death. She felt hope. You are impossible, she said, but her voice had no edge to it. I prefer determined. Torvin watched this exchange with ancient eyes. Well, he said finally, this should be interesting. The bounty hunter found them 2 days later. Syra'veth had just returned from acquiring supplies when she noticed the figure waiting in the Wandering Star's cargo bay. Female Vel'kari, tall and angular, wearing the ceremonial scarification of a blade initiate, one of the ascending throne's most deadly servants. Matriarch Syra'veth, the hunter said, her voice carrying ritual formality. I am Kethra, sworn to the new order. You are summoned to answer for crimes against the throne. Syra'veth set down her supplies calmly. I committed no crimes. The coup was illegal under the old laws. As you should be. Perhaps. But I choose not to be. Kethra drew her honor blade, the metal singing as it cleared the sheath. This is not a negotiation. No, Syra'veth agreed. It is not. She had no weapon. She had no guard. She was a scholar and a diplomat, never a warrior. But she had been raised as matriarch, and matriarchs did not beg. Kethra raised her blade, and staggered as something heavy struck her from behind. Marcus stood in the cargo bay entrance, a fire suppression canister in his hands. Sorry, am I interrupting? Fool. Kethra spun, blade flashing. Do you know who I am? What I am? I know you're on my ship without permission. Marcus dodged her first strike by centimeters. I know you're threatening someone under my protection. He ducked another slash, using the canister as a makeshift shield. And I know that you're really starting to annoy me. Marcus, run. Syra'veth shouted. You cannot. Kethra's blade caught his shoulder, cutting through fabric and flesh. Marcus grunted but didn't fall, swinging the canister in a wide arc that forced the hunter back. I've had worse, he said through gritted teeth. Remember that cargo dispute on Theta 7? Now that was a bad day. You are bleeding significantly. I noticed. Thanks. Kethra circled, reassessing. You would die for this woman? This fallen queen with no power, no house, no future? You're asking the wrong question. Marcus kept himself between the hunter and Syra'veth. It's not whether I would die for her. It's whether I'm going to let you take her. And the answer to that is no. Sentiment. Kethra's voice dripped contempt, the weakness of lesser species. Maybe. But here's the thing about human weakness. He smiled, blood running down his arm. We're really stubborn about it. The hunter lunged. Marcus caught her blade arm with his bare hand, a move so suicidal that even Kethra hesitated in surprise. His blood ran freely where the edge bit into his palm. But he held on. Syra'veth, he said calmly. There should be a stun pistol in the compartment to your left. She found it. She fired. Kethra dropped. Marcus released the blade and immediately sagged against the cargo container, his face gray. That was profoundly stupid, Syra'veth said, rushing to him. Let me see your wounds. In a minute. Is she down? She is unconscious. Likely for hours. Syra'veth pulled open his shirt, examining the damage. The shoulder wound was deep but clean. His hand was worse. The blade had nearly severed 2 fingers. You need medical attention immediately. Med kit's in my quarters. Red case. She retrieved it, working with hands that trembled despite her efforts to control them. As she cleaned and sealed his wounds, Marcus watched her with an expression that made her hearts race. Why are you looking at me like that? She demanded. Like what? Like I am. She couldn't finish the sentence. You saved my life, he said simply. I've been in this galaxy for 20 years, and I can count on one hand the people who've done that. Well, he glanced at his injured hand. Maybe not this hand anymore. Do not joke. You almost died, but I didn't. We didn't. We? What taught? The words struck her harder than any blade. Marcus. She stopped working on his wounds, meeting his eyes. Why did you do that? She would have killed you. She nearly did kill you. I told you. I'm stubborn. That is not an answer. He was quiet for a moment, his good hand reaching up to rest against her cheek. She flinched at the contact but didn't pull away. Because somewhere in the last 3 weeks, he said softly, you stopped being someone I saved and became someone I can't imagine losing. Because when she raised that blade, I didn't think about survival or odds or anything rational. I just knew I couldn't let her hurt you. Syra'veth's secondary eyes closed, a Vel'kari gesture of profound emotional vulnerability. Among my people, she whispered. What you just described. It has a name. A specific term for when another's survival becomes indistinguishable from your own. What's the term? She told him. The word was untranslatable, but it meant something like soul binding, the recognition of a bond that transcended choice or circumstance. And what does that mean? Marcus asked. For us, it means I'm terrified, she admitted. It means that everything I was taught about humans, about bonds, about power and vulnerability, all of it is crumbling. It means I look at you and see something I never expected to find. What do you see? Home. The word hung between them, weighted with meaning neither had fully prepared for. Marcus's hand was still on her cheek. His thumb traced gently across her skin, and Syra'veth leaned into the touch despite everything. Despite training. Despite logic. Despite the fear that still whispered she was making herself vulnerable. I don't know what I can offer you, he said. I'm a cargo hauler with a beat-up ship and more enemies than friends. I don't understand half your customs, and I'll probably offend you 12 times a day without meaning to. That is not, but I know what I feel. His voice was steady, certain. I know that waking up and seeing you on my ship is the best part of my day. I know that when you smile, actually smile, not that diplomatic mask, it's like watching stars being born. I know that if you asked me to fly into a black hole for you, I'd only ask which heading. Syra'veth felt something break open inside her, not painfully, but like a door that had been locked for too long. You're still very strange, she said, her voice thick. Is that a yes? To what question? To any of them. All of them. He leaned forward, his forehead resting against hers, a gesture that meant nothing in Vel'kari culture but somehow communicated everything. Stay with me. Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because this is where you want to be. Yes, she said. To any of them. All of them. Yes. 6 months later, the wandering star dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Vel'kari territory. Syra'veth stood on the bridge beside Marcus, watching the distant light of her homeworld star. She had sworn never to return. She had believed she never could. Things had changed. You're sure about this? Marcus asked. No. She glanced at him, finding strength in his presence as she always did now. But certainty is a luxury I cannot afford. The resistance contacted us. If there is any chance to restore balance, then we have to try. He reached over and took her hand, a gesture that had become natural between them, this casual intimacy that still startled her sometimes with its warmth. Together. The transmission came through an hour later. A face appeared on screen that made Syra'veth's heart stutter. Matriarch. Counselor Vel'kari, her mother's oldest friend, looked older than she remembered. Worn. But his eyes still held the sharp intelligence she recalled from childhood. You received our message. I did. I was surprised. The new regime grows more tyrannical by the day. Those of us who survived the purges have been reconsidering our positions. His gaze shifted to Marcus. This is the human, this is Marcus Cole. My partner. The word carried weight in Vel'kari, more than companion, less formal than the bonding vow but publicly significant. Vel'kari's secondary eyes flickered. The stories are true then. A human who bought your freedom, who fought for you, who loves me. Syra'veth corrected quietly. And whom I love in return. Silence. Among the old traditions, such an admission, especially to an outsider species, would have been scandalous. Unthinkable. Times change, Vel'kari said finally. We need allies wherever we can find them. The Matriarch's bond partner is welcome among the resistance. The meeting point was a hidden station in the outer system. When they docked, Syra'veth found herself facing a council of survivors, nobles and commoners alike, united by shared trauma and desperate hope. And they were looking at her. Waiting. Wait. I am not the Matriarch anymore, she told them. That title was stripped from me, by an illegal regime, an elderly female replied. The old blood remembers. The old ways persist. The old ways led us to ruin. Then perhaps new ways are needed. The speaker was young, barely past her coming of age. We have heard stories, Syra'veth. About you. About your human. They say he bought you with everything he had, then set you free. They say he stood unarmed against a blade initiate and refused to yield. The stories are true, Syra'veth confirmed. Then perhaps humans have something to teach us. About bonds that are not chains. About power that does not require domination. The young one stood straighter. I would follow a matriarch who understood such things. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. Syra'veth looked at Marcus, who stood quietly at the edge of the room. He gave her a small nod, a gesture of support without pressure. This was her choice. Her moment. I did not come here to reclaim a throne, she said. I came because innocent people are suffering under tyranny. I came because the coup destroyed not just my house, but the principles the ascending throne was meant to embody. She stepped forward, and something shifted in her bearing. The invisible mantle of authority settling onto her shoulders. If you want a matriarch who will rebuild on the old foundations, I am not that person. But if you want someone who has learned that true strength comes from conviction, not conquest. Her primary eyes swept the room. Then I will stand with you. I will fight with you. And when we have won, I will help build something new. And the human? Vel'kari asked. Syra'veth extended her hand. Marcus crossed the room to take it. The human, she said, stands where he has always stood. Beside me. As my partner, my counselor, and my bondmate. In all ways that matter. She looked at the assembly with 4 eyes that held no uncertainty. Does anyone wish to challenge this? Silence. Then, slowly, the young one who had spoken earlier dropped to one knee. Others followed. Not the prostration of the old ways, but something new. A gesture of respect, rather than submission. What would you have us do, matriarch? Vel'kari asked. And Syra'veth, holding the hand of an impossible human who had shown her that love could exist without chains, began to speak of revolution. Later, in the privacy of their quarters aboard the Wandering Starring, Marcus pulled her close. Matriarch, he said, testing the word. That's going to take some getting used to. You could call me by my name. I could. But I like how you look when I use your title. All regal and trying not to smile. She did smile then, the expression still unfamiliar on her features, but growing more natural with each day. I should be terrified, she admitted. We are about to start a war. I am claiming authority I may not be able to hold. Everything could collapse. It could, Marcus agreed. Or we could succeed. Or something in between. His hand traced patterns on her back, soothing and present. Whatever happens, we face it together. You sound very certain. I am. He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, all 4 of them. Do you remember what I said when we first met? When you demanded to know how I dared to look at you? You said I was breathtaking. I meant it. And not just the way you looked, though that too. His voice softened. You were in chains, surrounded by people who saw you as property. and you still held yourself like a queen. You were breathtaking because you refused to be broken. You're still breathtaking. More, now that I've seen who you truly are. Syra'veth felt her secondary eyes burn with the Vel'kari equivalent of tears. I was so angry when you said that, she whispered. I thought you were mocking me, and now I understand. She leaned into him, 4 eyes closing. You saw me. Not the title, not the tragedy, not the transaction. You saw me and found me worthy of everything you gave. Everything I give, he corrected, present tense. Ongoing. Permanent. Permanent, she repeated. I am learning to like that word. Outside the viewport, the stars of her home system glittered like scattered diamonds. Tomorrow would bring war councils and strategy sessions, alliances to forge and enemies to face. Tomorrow, she would be matriarch again, with all the weight that title carried. But tonight, she was simply Syra'veth. And she was home. Not in a place, but in a person. In the arms of an impossible human who had taught her that some chains were worth wearing. The ones you chose, the ones that bound 2 souls together across the impossible distances of species and culture and expectation. I love you, she said. The words were still strange in her mouth, a human phrase that had no direct equivalent in Vel'kari. But she was learning to speak his language, just as he was learning hers. I love you too. Marcus pressed a kiss to her forehead. My breathtaking matriarch. You're strange, stubborn human. That too. And in the quiet of the ship that had become their sanctuary, 2 people from different worlds held each other close and dreamed of the future they would build. Together. Whatever came next, they would face it as they faced everything now. Side by side. Hearts intertwined. Breathtaking.